Oh, hey guys, welcome to Noteworks channel. In the previous lecture, we studied about chapter 2, which is flow control. I hope you've seen the video. I'll put a link down in the description just in case you haven't visited that. So, this chapter we'll be learning about functions. Functions is a really important part of Python. So, the topics we'll be covering is introduction, introduction, def statement with parameters, return values and return statements, none values, keyword arguments and print statement, local and global scope, and what is the global statement, exception handling. And after this, we'll be writing a short program, guess the number. So I'll explain its problem statement and everything during the session, and we'll be going through a few questions. And be doing two practice projects. It's a very interesting start of your coding journey. So yeah, let's get started. Before we start with this chapter, as you remember in chapter 2, I haven't actually gone through the practice questions. So I'm gonna do this in this chapter. So if you have already seen the lecture, you can pause after the question, write and just verify your answer. So let's get started. So question 1. So question 1, what are the two values of the Boolean data type? What are the two values of Boolean data type and how do you write them? So what are the two Boolean data types and how do you write them? This is question number 1. So yeah, let's just start writing the answer. So solution for this is, so the two Boolean values are true and false. So how are they written? They are written they are written without quotes and must start with a capital, sorry, capital spelling is wrong, my bad. Start with capital T or F as shown above. So they must have a capital T or a capital F. So this is question number 1. Next. Question number 2. What are the three Boolean operators? So what are the three Boolean operators? So what are the three Boolean operators? As I said, you can pause as soon as I write the question and try writing on your own and just cross it. So three Boolean operators are and, or, and not. So the three Boolean operators are and, or, and not. So question number 3, write out the truth tables of each Boolean operators. So we should write the truth table of each Boolean operators. So solution, let's get started with and. So as we know, and is not a unary, it's a binary. Binary meaning it takes two inputs. So it has A and B. Then you have the output A and B. So we have true, false, true, false, true, true, false. This is how you usually write any truth table. If it's three, it'd be like true, true, false, false, true, true, false, false, etc., etc. But for now, all you need to know is if there's two, it's true, false, and the A part will be true, true, and false, false. So, and what did we say? Only if it is true and true in both the inputs, then only we get output as true. In rest all cases, it is false. So only in case of true and true, we get it as true. So in rest all cases, it is false. Similarly, OR operator. So let's just copy the above table. So yeah, yeah. So what did we learn in OR? Only false false will be equal to false. Rest all will be true. So true, 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 and we'll have false here. This is OR operator. Next is NOT operator. NOT operator is a unary operator. So it'll have only one input. So one input and the output will be not A. So it'll be if you have true and false, only one. So if it's true, not A will be not true. Not true meaning false. And not false means true. So these are your, so it's basically the opposite. So these are the truth tables of the three Boolean operators. Then next question, fourth question. What do the following expression evaluate to? So I'm gonna give few expressions. You should evaluate to a single Boolean operator. So let's look at each one of them. First one is 5 is greater than 4 and 3 is equal to 5. So this is the first one. How to solve this? 5 is greater than 4 meaning is it true? So true. And is 3 equal to 5? Why are we doing the brackets first? Because we saw a rule because we should do the brackets first, then the relation, then comes and. Or you can see the previous lecture for more details. So 3 equal to 5, is it true? No, it is false. So true and false we can see in the above truth table. True and false means false. So you'll get the final answer as false. Similarly, let's speed things up. We have not 5 greater than 4. So not 5 greater. Is pi greater than 4? Yes. So it'll be true. And what is not true? It is false. Then next. 5 less than 4 or 3 equal to 5. Okay. So 5 less than 4 or 3 equal to 5. Let's look at this. 5, so 5 greater than 4. Is 5 greater than 4? True. Or is 3 equal to 5? False. So true or false meaning you will get answer as true. Similarly, not 5 greater than 4 or 3 equal to 5. So this expression we solved above. What will we get the answer as true? So you get not true. What is not true? Not true means false. Then next, you have true and true and true equal to false. So true and true. If you get true and true, what you'll get answer as true itself. And true equal to false. Is this correct? Meaning if we imagine true as 1 and false as 0, is 1 equal to 0? No. So this is also false. So true and false will give at the end false. Similarly, next question, not false or not true. So not false means true or not true means false. So true or false meaning you will get true. So this is how you evaluate. These are 6 examples. You can try them on your own. I hope you tried them on your own. Then next question. And the fifth question. What are the 6 comparison operators? What are the 6 comparison operators? So the 6 comparison operators are equal to, I mean one only equal to, not equal to, then less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Yeah, that's all. So these are 6. What is this? Equal to, not equal to. So this is less than input. This is greater than. If this is not equal less to than or equal to, then we continue. And this is then we will move out of the if and say greater than or hello equal to Joe. So what is the this password? Is the 6 comparison operators. Next, sixth question. It is a fish. Sixth question. What is that is the hint we have basically given. The so password difference will be between inputted from the user using the input equal statement. So if two operator password equal to operator equal to and the swordfish assignment password is equal to, then we break then operator, right? So what is the difference between the equal to and the assignment? I have stressed this point many times. Access. So I'm going to reiterate again for people who have not paid correct attention. So try understanding. So the here equal to operator. First we are going to start a infinite. The so equal to operator. Infinite, we are going to print to the kernel who are you compares or the output terminal who are you and two values input a string which compares is in, two values stored in the name variable to check. So if name is not equal to Joe are equal, if name is not equal to Joe, then it continues. That and means if name is not equal to Joe, it will again start from the beginning. True or false. So unless and until name is Joe, you can't. So it checks further. And returns whether it is true or false. So after and you enter Joe, then assignment you go to the next step, print hello Joe. So unless and until this operator becomes true, which is this, assigns. So unless and until a value, I mean unless and until this is false and you skip this variable. So the statements are self-explanatory. So you should write. Still didn't understand? Please check out the previous chapter video. Otherwise, then, it'll keep on looping. Question 7. So then you print Joe. What is the password? And you give a hint, and you again input password. What? Which is again a string, which is a condition stored in the password variable. So if password is equal to swordfish, so unless and until you put it as swordfish, it breaks. Otherwise, it again loops to the top. Use one. Then again, so what is a condition and where would you after use all this one? Loop is done, it breaks, then it prints access granted. So a condition then it prints access granted. So this is the use case of is a Boolean expression. Continue and break it together. Is a I'll Boolean write the explanation for you. Expression that just so you are clear with it. Evaluates reiterating a lot of stuff. So what it does is true or keeps false. What the program does is it keeps asking for your name. It's used in keeps asking for your it's used in name flow control until it's used in flow control statements
you type.
It's used in flow
Show.
control statements
So it keeps asking your name until you type
such
show.
as
If name is not
while,
Joe,
for what? To
so if name
decide
is not Joe,
whether
it continues,
a block
skip
of code,
the
a
rest of
block
the
of
loop.
code
It skips the rest of the loop
should run.
and
So it decides whether a block of
jumps to the
code
top.
should run or not.
Skips the
So
rest
this
of the
is
loop and
what a
jumps to the top.
condition is and what it is used for.
If
Next,
name is Joe,
we have
so
given
if
in the next
name is
question they
Joe,
have given a code.
then it
So
will ask
let's
for
write down question 8.
the password. It will ask
Identify.
for the password. So while inputting, if password,
So identify. So
if
question
password
8,
is swordfish,
identify the
the loop
three blocks in the code.
ends
So you must
with
identify
break.
3 blocks in this code.
So
So let's look at the
with this,
code.
what can we conclude? Continue
So
means
we're saying spam is equal to 0. If spam
skip the rest
is equal to 10,
and
print
go to the next loop cycle. Whereas what does break
x.
do? It just skips
Next,
the whole
if
loop itself.
spam
It goes out of the while loop or
is
any other loop
greater than
that you
5,
use. Okay,
print
so this is what continue and break are used and how they are
bacon.
used. So similarly, next,
Else print ham. Then print spam and print spam. So let's identify the blocks. So the first block would be the first if block. So this will be block 1. So only if spam is equal to 10, block 1 will be executed. So only if spam is equal to 10, then block 1 will execute. And the next block similarly is, so next block is, this is block 2. So only if spam is greater than 5, then block 2 will execute. So this is block 2. Then block 3 will be, so if this if statement becomes false, then it will come to this else statement. And this else statement will print only if spam is the opposite of greater than 5, which is less than 5. So this else is for this if statement. So these are the 3 blocks present in this code. And as you can see, this print is not in either of the if blocks. Since they are indentation, you can see them clearly as I wrote the code. Getting it? Okay. Next. Question 9. So they're asking us to write code that prints hello if 1 is stored in spam. So we should print hello if 1 is stored in spam. And then it prints howdy, howdy if 2 is stored in spam. And prints greedy, sorry, greetings if anything else is stored. Anything else is stored in spam. So we just need to write the if logic of this. We don't need to write the full input from user and everything. So just let's understand how the if logic works. So if spam is equal to 1, then we must print what? Hello. So we print hello. Then next, else if spam is equal to 2, then we print howdy. We print howdy. Otherwise, if both of these conditions are false, then we print greetings. Then we print greetings. Get the logic? So this is how you're supposed to analyze each line and write a code. So that's question 9. Now let's move on to question 10. What can what can you press if your program is stuck in an infinite loop? So if your program is stuck, like we have read in the chapter, just look into that. If it's stuck in an infinite loop, what do we do? Then we just press Control plus C. Let it be Mac or Windows. We just press with Control plus C. Then 11th one. What is the difference between break and continue? So answer is break exits the loop immediately. So it exits the loop immediately, whereas continue skips the rest of the current loop iterations and jumps to the next cycle of the so it jumps to the next cycle of the loop. So next one, 12th question. What is the difference between range 10 comma range 0 comma 10 and range 0 comma 10 comma 1 in a for loop? So what are the difference basically? So the solution is for range 10, let's write this little neatly. For range 10, its start is from 0 and ends at 9 with step of 1. So in this is default and this also is default. And you get 9 by doing n minus 1. So this is range 10. So here range 0 comma 10, the start will be 0, end will be 9, step will be 1. Here only this is default. This is mentioned and here again you get 10 minus 1, which is n minus 1. Then next, range 0 comma 10 comma 1. So here it starts from 0, ends from 10, and step count is 1. So none of this is default, everything is specified in the parameters. So this is question number 12. Next, question number 13. Write a short program that prints the numbers 1 to 10 using for loop. I think I have explained this in the classes, meaning previous video, but I'm going to reiterate again. Then write equivalent program that prints 1 to 10 using while loop. So they're asking us to demonstrate for loop and while loop. So you should print 1 to 10. So let's look at the solution. For loop, so I just need to write for I in range. So it must go from 1 to 10. So start from 1 and end at 11. Then we print I. So whereas in while loop, we start with I is equal to 1 and we give a condition while I is less than or equal to 10. Here we're not putting 11 because it's less than or equal to. You can also write I less than 11. Both are same. Okay. So I less than or equal to 10 and so we print I. So what are two conditions of while? One, we need to give a condition and next we must increment it somehow. So I plus is equal to 1. So I plus is equal to 1. This is equivalent to I is equal to I plus 1. So it increments at each point. So this is how we write the for loops and while loop. Next, then the last and 14th question. If you had a function named bacon inside a module named spam, how would you call it after importing spam? So after importing spam, how would you call it? So there are two methods. I'm going to write one method. You try writing the other method. So import bacon. Sorry, module name is spam. Import spam. Then the function name is bacon. So spam dot, we call the bacon function. So this is how you do it. So this ends the questions of chapter 2. These are all the main topics which you need to remember for sure. So let's go right ahead for chapter 3, which is functions. So we have looked at all the topics which we are going to cover. So let's get started with the introduction of functions. So introduction, first point. What is a function? A function, so a function is a mini program within a program. So function is a mini program within a program that performs performs a specific task. Performs a specific task. So Python may have built-in functions, as we saw in the previous modules. Python has many built-in functions. So I can give, for example, print is also built-in function. Input is a built-in function, and length. We have learned all what they do, and so they have many built-in. Along with this, you can also create your own using def. So def is a keyword. So you can create your own using def. So what do functions help in doing? So functions, I'm going to write functions like this just for making it faster. Functions help group code that you might need to run multiple times. So when you have a block of code you need to run multiple times, we used to loop. But when you need the loop itself to run multiple times, so then you use function. So it helps group code that you might need to run multiple times. So let's see how you define a function. Let's see how you define a function. So as we stated above, we use the diff keyword to define a function. So we use the diff keyword to define a function. So if we look at the syntax, so it's something like you use the diff keyword, then you write the function name and you give the parameters. And inside this, you indent it and you give the function body. So this is indented code. It must be in the same order, otherwise it goes out of the function. So let's look at an example. Let's look at an example. Def hello, we print howdy. Then in the same indented block, print, again we print howdy. Then we print hello there. So here the function name is hello. And here is the indented function body. These are the indented code. So this code is not executed unless and until it is called. So you'll understand this statement while doing some examples. So unless and until this function is called, this code or this function body does not execute. So next comes calling a function. We have learned about defining a function, but now calling a function. So a function call is equal to function name plus parenthesis. As I showed above, it is function name plus parenthesis, which is this. So how do you call a function? You just write the name and the parenthesis along with it. So let's look at the example. So I'll try calling the above hello function. So if I write hello with parenthesis, I'm calling it once. Whereas if I write hello and again, this is the second time I'm calling the same function. So I write again, this is the third time. So in normal, if there's no function topic, we must write the same code thrice. Instead, we are just writing one line and reducing the lines of code. Get it? So what happens here? Uh, each so each call runs the function body. So it runs the function body. So let's try looking at the output for you to get a easier picture. So usually let's just imagine we are executing this code, this part, print howdy, howdy, oh my slang is bad, but okay, howdy, howdy, and print hello there. So usually if we write this code, what will happen? The output would be howdy. It's like howdy mate. Okay, howdy, howdy. Then what is the last? Hello there. So this is normally, but here we are calling it three times. So the output would repeat itself thrice. So this is the first time, this is the second time, and this is the third time. So this would be our output. Getting the point? So then I have already told, but again, sorry, my bad. Markers. So why use functions? Why use functions? This is a important questions. See, I have told the only way you learn is by asking questions. So why do you actually need functions? So one thing that pops to my head is you don't need to write the code again and again. Avoids code duplication. Avoids code duplication. So without function, you have to repeatedly write the code again and again for getting this above output. So you should write the same three lines of code thrice. Then easier maintenance. Next is easier maintenance. So you can updating the code, if you just update the code in one place, you can change the code in the meaning you can, if you whenever you call, it'll be changed. So it is easier maintenance. Then cleaner code. So for looking, the code is more readable and more at a glance you can understand. Next, de deduplication. Okay, this is a term even I have learned recently. So deduplication is like the process of, I'm just going to explain. It's the process of, same as avoid duplication, but the process of removing repeated code and replacing it with reusable function. So this is a fancy term for the same avoid duplication. So just if this comes in any competitive exam, so deduplication is basically the process of removing the code or avoiding to write the code again and again. So this is the introduction of functions. Next, learn about def statement with parameters. So we know why we use def statement, but this time we are going to learn with parameters. So inside the parenthesis, we are going to give some parameters. So first thing first, let's understand what you mean by arguments and what do you mean by parameters. So what is arguments and parameters? So I like to write arguments as arg just for the sake of writing faster. So a value you pass, argument is a value you pass into a function when calling it. So argument is a value you pass into a function when calling it. Whereas a parameter is a variable, is a variable inside the function, inside the function definition that stores the argument value during the function call, during the function call. So argument is a value you pass into the function. So this keyword into the function when calling it. Whereas parameter is a variable which is inside the function definition that stores the argument value during the function call. So for deeper understanding, let's look at what it is. So de defining defining a function with parameters. Defining a function with parameters. So let's look at a syntax. How does it go? So same, use the diff keyword. Then you have your function name. You have your function name. Then you write your parameters inside the parenthesis. So parameter 1, parameter 2, so on. Then you will have your function body. So this is how you write with parameters. So let's look at an example. Example, def hello. I'm going to put a parameter name. So this is a variable name. So we print hello plus we concat with name. So while we are calling, if we write hello Alice and then hello Bob. So what would the output be? So what we are doing is we are sending this Alice when we first call into name. So for the first this part of the code, name would be equal to Alice. Name would be equal to Alice. So then when we concatenate with hello, what happened is we'll get hello Alice. Similarly, when the second time we are calling, this time name will be, the name variable will store Bob. So it will be hello Bob. So these are what you called as arguments. And inside the definition, this is what you called a parameter. So what are the definitions again of argument? We pass a value which we pass into the function. So this is a value we are passing into the function. Whereas parameter is a variable which is already present in the definition of the function. Getting it? So this is how calling a function, defining a function with parameter works. So some key key behaviors, key behavior of parameters. So the key behavior of parameters are, so they temporary storage. So temporary storage. So what this means is the argument's value exists in the parameter only while the function runs. So only when the function runs, the argument value is stored here. Alice is temporary. Only while this full block of code is run, it is running. But as soon as the next part, Bob is stored, so this is just a temporary storage. This is what it means by temporary storage. So once the function finishes, so once the function finishes, it returns the parameter variable is destroyed. So once it does its code, so here what's is code doing? Printing hello and the value given. So once it's done, or we call it return, then the parameter variable is destroyed. So the parameter variable is destroyed. So for example, after all this code, after all this code here at this point, if you say print name, so we had name as Alice, then we had name as Bob. But after calling this, if you say print name, this will give a name error because it doesn't have any value in it, because parameter no longer exists. So parameter no longer exists. Why this happens? This is because parameters have a local scope. If you learn OS properly, you'll understand this in a deeper level. So a local scope that ends when the function finishes. So it ends when the function finishes. So this is how you use def statements with parameters.
So, hey guys, let's continue with the next topic, which is return values and return statement. So, for understanding this topic, first we need to know what is a return value. So, what is a return value? So, the value of function, the value of function evaluates to when called. So, a function evaluates to when called. So, for example, For example, we know len is a inbuilt function. We know len is a or length of is the inbuilt function. So when we call this function by sending hello as an argument, then what happens? It will return 5. So here so therefore the return value, the return value is 5. So this is what a return value means. Similarly, what is a return statement? So this return statement is used inside a function to send a value back to the caller. So it sends a value back to the caller. So basically what it means is it's in this structure. In the end of the function, we write return either a value or a expression. When we do this, it returns either a value or an expression. So the expression after return is evaluated, and the result is given back to where the function was called. So it is evaluated and the result is given back where the function was called. So this is how return statements work. So let's look at an example program. Example, we'll be looking at something called as magic 8 ball program. So magic 8 ball program basically means there'll be few numbers, randomly it'll be generating, and each number has its own meaning, and this meaning will be printed. So you have seen that black color balls, the 8 ball pool. So it's basically for prediction. You think of something and you shake the ball and it'll come up with something. So it's just to make up your mind. So that we are gonna do in a programmatical way. So first, it must be random. The inputs what we get is random. So we're gonna import the random module. We import the random module. Then we're gonna start a function def get answer. Get answer. Then inside the parameter will be answer number. So if answer number is equal to 1, return it is certain. So if it's 1, it's going to return it is certain as the string. Elif, if not, if answer number is equal to 2, then we are going to return it is decidedly so. So these are our classic 8 ball answers. So let's just copy paste. So next would be if answer number is equal to 3, then we print yes. Then we print yes. Next. Okay. then we print yes. Then if it is 4, we print reply is hazy, try again. Reply is hazy, try again. Then next, if this is equal to 5, then we are going to print. So here we are going to, if it's equal to 5, we are going to print ask again later. Then if it is equal to 6, we are going to print concentrate and ask again. Then if it is equal to 7, if it is equal to 7, my reply is no. And if the reply is 8, we say outlook not good, outlook not so good. And here it is. If it's 9, it is very doubtful. So this is all your if loops. So this all comes under the function. Then we are going to move out of the indented group and say r is equal to random into randint 1 comma 9. So what this does is it prints, sorry, not into, random dot. So this is how you call, right? So it prints random integers from 1 to 9. So we print that in R. So fortune will be equal to get answer, and we're going to send the argument R. We're going to send the argument R. So whatever it returns will be stored in fortune. So stores return value in fortune. Then what we need to do, we print the result. So we print fortune. So for suppose if you get R as randomly 3, then it will return yes. So yes goes and sits in fortune. Then we print fortune, then we get the answer as yes. Similarly, the rest all elif statements all work. If 1, 2, 3, depending on what is coming, it will show that. So yeah, so we can even reduce this 3 lines. So these 3 lines, let's just copy it. I mean, just for the sake of writing a simpler code or shorter code. This is not part of the program. Here the program ends. Okay, whatever. So here the program. So this is equivalent to, you can write this as print get answer random dot randint 1 comma 9 random dot randint 1 comma 9. So we we can write it directly instead of writing 2 3 lines. We can just say print get answer. What is this doing? It is here instead of R, we are directly sending whatever comes here to the parameter, and whatever parameter returns, we're directly printing it in the print statement. So both of these can be used. And so instead of these three lines, we can reduce it. So why does this work? This works because function calls can be part of expressions. They are replaced by their return values. So the functions are replaced by their return values. That is why the above line will work instead of the three lines. So this is about return value and return statements. So next we are going to learn about what is called as a none value. Not NUN none, NONE none. So first of all, what is none? So we can say none, it represents no value slash absence of a value. So only value of the none type data, none type data type. So it basically means it has no value inside it. So none type means none basically. So it must have capital letter N. So capital N is must. It is similar to null, nil, undefined. So it's similar to these null, nil, and undefined. So next, when is none used? So this is important questions. When it's null, why do you need to use it? So when is it used? So it's like a placeholder for no value yet in variable. So in a variable, it's ready to attain some value, but initially it has to be something. So that time we give it a none value. So it's used as a second use cases. It is used as a default return value. It's used as a default return value for functions that do not return anything. So for functions that do not return anything, this is a default return value. So for example, print returns none. So if you say spam is equal to print hello. So if you print hello, so what will the output be? Output would be hello. And when you say print spam is equal to none, you'll get this as true. So this is an example. So what we can say from this is print shows the output. It shows the output, but returns none. It can show the output, but it returns none. It returns none. One second. This is a continuation of this code. Okay. So it returns none. So stored in spam. So spam is equal to none. So which means it is So this is what it's trying to conclude with the above program. And the next is, my bad. The next is automatic non-return. So what do you mean by automatic non-return? So if a function if a function doesn't have it doesn't have a return statement, if it doesn't have a return statement, Python automatically appends automatically appends. So it automatically appends return none. So if you write return with no value, it also returns none. So it also returns none. So this is what none is used for. So when you write return with no value, it automatically returns it as none. This is what none statement is used for. So in many inbuilt, when there's nothing to return, they use none itself for returning nothing. So next is keyword arguments and print statement. So let's look at this topic. So first, let's understand what do you mean by positional versus keyword argument. So what do you mean by positional, not positional, sorry, positional versus keyword argument. So let's look at each. So first of all, what do you mean by positional? Positional argument. It identified by their position, identified by their position in the function call. So it's identified by the position in the function call. So what does it mean by that meaning? If you say random dot randint 1 to 0, this is the position in the function call. So if you say 1, this is valid because it has a it has a step of 1, so it can add plus 1 and reach till 1, meaning 10, 1 to 10 it can reach. But whereas if you say random dot randint 10 comma 1, so since it has a step count of 1, it should increment. So 10, 11, 12, it can never reach 1. So there will be an error formed here. So this will say it has a wrong order. So this is what you mean by positional argument. Whereas there's something called as keyword argument. So what is keyword argument? It is identified by a name before the value. So before the value, it is identified by a name. So the format of this is keyword is equal to value. So often it is used for optional parameters in functions. So it's used for optional parameters in functions. So this is what you mean by positional versus keyword operator. So you'll understand more when you write a full Python program, but this is what positional means and this is what keyword operator argument means. Next is print function, print function, optional keyword argument. So now we are going to see where the keyword argument comes. So we know print has two useful, I know, and you're going to get to know that print has two useful keyword arguments. So one is end and the other one is seep. So what does end do? It says what to print after the output. So after the output, it will say what to print. By default, it goes to the new line. So after your string ends, it will go to the new line automatically with print. So, but with the end parameter, you can change this according to your use case. And whereas seep or sep or separate or whatever, it's what to print between multiple arguments. So what to print in between multiple arguments is what separation or sep does. So the default usually is a space, one space bar length of space, which is something like this. So this is what print does. So if we take example of each of them, n parameter. So let's look into two things. One is the default behavior and the next would be our changed behavior. So default behavior, what would the default behavior be? So print hello. So print hello world. So what would the output be? Output would be hello in the first line. And since it's his new line as default, there's nothing you added here. So the next time it'll go and print world. But if you try changing it, changing end. So we'll try changing end. So what happened is if you write print same hello and end with, instead of a line, we end with a space. Then we print world as usual. So then the output would be hello. So since there's no space, world continuously. If you put some space, then there'll be some space. And the cursor will come to the next line since there is no end statement here. So what is the use case for this? So basically use case for this is prevents new line at the end of output. So at the end of output, it will prevent a new line. So this is for end. Now let's look into SEP or SEP parameter. SEP parameter. So similarly, let's look into the default behavior first. So the default behavior, we are gonna print cats, dogs, and mice. These are the three parameters we have. So the output would be, cats, dogs, since the default is just a space and mice. But if we try changing SCP, we have print cats, dogs, mice. Similarly, at the end, we say SCP or SEP is a comma. Instead of a space, we're going to put comma. Then what would be our output? Right, the output would be cats, dogs, and mice. So again, the use case here would be change how multiple items items are separated. So we can change how multiple items are separated. So some key points you can remember for this is some key points are some functions accept optional keyword argument to mo- to modify behavior. Then the order of positional the order of positional arguments matter matters. Keyword arguments are positionally independent. So they are position independent. So positional arguments matter. Here it is independent of what's the position. Next, you can create your own function. You can create your own functions with keyword arguments after learning about list and dictionary. So there'll be a chapter which tells us about list and dictionaries. So after that, you can create your own function with keywords. So list and dictionaries. So these are the few key points you need to remember under this topic. So this ends keyword arguments and print. So the next topic would be local and global scope. Okay, so here we'll be learning about local and global scopes of basically variables or programs or etc. So let's understand what is scope first. So what is scope? This is the first question you must ask. So answer is it is the region of a program. It is a region of a program where where a variable exists and can be assessed or accessed, sorry, can be accessed. So it's a region of program where a variable exists and can be accessed. So there are different types of scope. So the first one is global scope. So what is global scope basically? Created It's created when the program starts. This is created when the program starts. Then variables here are global variables. Variables here are global variables. So they are only destroyed or not exist or something like that. So destroyed when the program ends. They are only destroyed when the program ends. This is what you mean by global scope. Whereas local local scope, it's created when it is created when a function is called. It's created when a function is called. So variables here are called local variables. They are called local variables. So they are destroyed. They are destroyed when they're destroyed when the function returns. So as soon as the function returns, the local variables or local scope of the variable is destroyed. Then this is what global and local scope means. Then next, there are few rules. Rules of variable access. So this is rules of variable access. So global scope can't access local variable. So global scope can't access local variable, and local scope can access global variable. So it can access global variable. So this is read only unless declared global. So unless they're declared global, they are only read only. You can't write upon it. Then local scope are independent. This means that one function's local variable are not accessible. They are not accessible in another function's local scope. So one function's local variables are not accessed in another function's local scope. And see, same variable name can exist. They can exist in different scopes. So in different scopes, you can have the same variable name because these both are not accessible. So by changing each of them doesn't change the other. But it's best, this is advice, it is best to avoid this to reduce this to reduce confusion. So local scopes are independent, so one function local variable. So when we have two functions, function A and function B, these variables are not accessed by these variables. And this, if this name and this name is same, by changing one, it doesn't change the other because this variable scope is this much only, and this variable scope is this much only. This is what we mean by variable access. This is really important when you start programming a big set of lines or variables. Then next, why have, again, as a question might ask, why must we have separate scopes? So why must we have separate scopes? This is a really important question to ask. So it prevents unintended interference. It prevents unintended interference between variables in different parts of the program. So prevents unintended interference between variables in different parts of the program. And next advantage or disadvantage, it makes debugging easier. So for suppose, if a bug is caused by a local variable, you know only that function, only that function could have affected it. So only that function could have affected it. So it is easy to debug. Then next, same variable name can't exist. Sorry, variable. Sorry, I'm reiterating a previous line. Sorry. So why have separate scopes? Then the next one is using too many global too many global variable in large programs is considered bad practice. So using too many global variables, it can be because of the size issue, or again and again referring to a global might reduce its speed, but it is considered a bad practice in program. Then the next, we can look at some key examples. Few key examples. So example 1, local variable not accessible globally. So local variable not accessible globally. So how this looks like, you define spam function, and you say eggs is equal to 31337. So then spam, if you call the spam function, then you print eggs. These both are out of the scope of the function. If you print eggs, here you will get a name error because the eggs variable is dead as soon as it went out of the function. So there is no eggs variable according to this line. So eggs only exists inside spam function. Inside spam function. So it only exists inside the spam function. And the next one is next example. Example number 2. Local scope. Local scope are isolated. What does this mean? Local scope are isolated. So you say def, you initialize spam function, and you say eggs is equal to 99. Then you call a bacon function, and you say print eggs. This prints egg 99. Then you say define bacon. You say ham is equal to 101 and eggs is equal to 0. Then you call spam function. So here, thing you need to understand is eggs in spam function and eggs in bacon function are completely different variables. These are completely different variables. They don't have interrelation. So even if you initialize this as 0, it will print it as 99 itself. Then next, example 3. Global variable global variable reads inside a function. So a global variable reads inside the function also. So if you say x is equal to 42, then if you say x is equal to 42, then def spam, you print eggs. So here what happens, it reads globally, it reads the global eggs. Then you print spam. You print spam here, it prints 42. Then again you say print eggs outside the function. Again here also it will print 42. Since egg here is a global variable. Since egg here it is a global variable. Next, example 4. Variables with same name in different scopes. So variables with different same name with different scopes. If eggs is equal to global, x is equal to global. So this is a global scope. Then you start writing the function def spam eggs is equal to spam local. Then we print eggs. Similarly, if you say def bacon, you say eggs is equal to bacon local, then you print eggs inside the bacon function. So now you call first bacon function. This what it does, it prints bacon local. This prints bacon local. Next, after calling bacon, you will call spam. This will print, it prints spam local. Then next, it prints eggs. So this is, it prints global since this is referring to the global variable. So here, this egg which contains bacon local, it is unique to this function and this scope itself. Then this egg, it is unique to this. Whereas this egg, it is a global scope, so it has reached till the whole program. This is what it means. So again, as I stated above, it's better to avoid having the same variable names. So and we have, I think we mentioned, yeah, why you need it. It is also good practice to use less global variables. Then use local variable inside the function whenever possible. So it makes it easy to debug it. So these are few important things you must remember. So this is local and global scope. Then now let's learn about, we have already understood, but let's reiterate again what is global statement in Python. So first and foremost, So why use global statement? So why use global statement is the first question you must ask. So normally variables assign variables assigned inside a function variables assigned inside a function are local. So if you want a function if you want a function to modify a global variable, so you want a function to modify global variable, use the global statement. Use the global statement. So if you want a function to modify a global variable, you must use the global statement. So I have told you to use it, but next question comes how to use it. How to use it. So what you do is place global variable name at the top of the function. Then now assign assignments to that name. Change the global variable. So we must change the global variable and not a local one. So if we have to change, so we place at the top of the function and now assignments to that name changes the global variable and not a local one. So whenever you do any changes, it changes the global variable and doesn't change the local one. So let's look at an example. Example. So if you again say def spam global eggs here, this refers to global eggs. So since we put the global keyword in front of it, this refers to global eggs. Then we say eggs is equal to spam. Since we initialize this as global inside the function itself, this modifies the global eggs. So what happens is when we say, even though we are initializing globally that eggs is equal to global, eggs is equal to global, when we calls the spam function, when we call the spam function and at the same time we print eggs. When we call the spam function, what happens is global variable is getting changed to spam. So when we print eggs this time, it will be changed to spam. This would be the output. So this is how by using a global keyword here, we can directly change inside the function itself. So let's look at few rules for variable scope in functions. I think uh, I think we have already gone through this, but again, there's nothing wrong in reiterating rules for variable scope in function. So first one is global scope. So global scope, what does this mean? Variable used outside variable used outside all functions are always global. So variables used outside functions are always global. Next, global statements in function. global statements in function. If function has global name, that variable refers to the global variable. That refers to the global variable. Next, assignment in function, no global statement. So here we are not using the global statement. So what happens is variable assigned inside function, variable assigned inside function is local variable. So variable inside the function is always a local variable. And next and last rule is variable used but not assigned. Variable used but not assigned. What happens in this case is variable used in not function. This, if it's not assigned, then it refers to global variable only. So it refers to global variable only. So if it's variable used but not assigned, meaning it is referred to as global variable only. So next example, example with example with multiple functions. Example with multiple functions. Now if you define first spam, global eggs, then eggs is equal to spam. Then def bacon and eggs is equal to bacon. Then def ham, then we print eggs. Then we say eggs is equal to 42 and spam, we call the spam function. Then we print eggs. So what happens in this is here this eggs is global here. So this is referring to the global variable. This eggs is local here. And here since there is no eggs assigned, so this eggs is global again. And this egg which we assigned here, this is a global variable. So what happens here is this prints spam because initially we did this as spam. This is what the funda is. Okay, next. Some important things you must remember. Yeah, okay. Let's look at some important things you must remember because people might get confused. There's a lot of ways you can go wrong in this part, so I'm just gonna clarify a few things you might go wrong in. So the functions variable is always either local or global. It's either local or global. So inside one function, you can't use the same name, can't use the same name for both a local variable. You can't use the same name for both the local variable and the global variable. You can't use the same name for both the local variable and the global variable. So what happens is, common error which comes when you do this is, you get something called as unbound local error. So this comes if a variable is assigned in the function but referred to before assignment. It's referred to before the assignment itself. So then you get the unbound. For example, if you see def spam, then you print eggs. Then you say eggs is equal to spam. Then you go out of the function. You say eggs is equal to global. And you call spam function. Here you'll get error. Why? We are printing it before we assign it. It's different if you put egg before the function, but you didn't do that. So we are assigning after usage. After printing it, we are assigning it. So we get a output saying unbound local error. What does this mean? Local variable x referenced before it's referenced before assigning. So so you might ask why, meaning why does this come? So let's ask the question why. So basically Python sees the assignment, and makes eggs local. So it sees the assignment and makes eggs local in this function. It makes it local. So the local egg does not does not exist does not exist yet when you try to print it. So when you try to print it, it does not exist yet. So what it does, it it does not use the global variable in this case, since it is after the assignment. It was before, it was a different case, but because it's after, it does not use the global variable. So this is what a global variable and everything is. Then there's something called as functions as something called as black box or black boxes. So let's elaborate on this. So using a function, when using a function, usually only inputs and outputs matter. So usually only inputs and outputs matter. you don't need you don't need to know you don't need to know how the function works inside. So you don't need to know how the function works inside. This is what you call that as black box idea. So basically we can't see inside the function, or we don't need to know what's inside the function. So most functions are used this way, especially library ones. Most functions only we know what is the input and we know what we get as output. For example, uppercase, lowercase, which we are going to see, or rand it. We don't know how it's generating. It's just randomly generating. We don't need to know how what's inside the function. So mainly for library functions, this is how we do. So this is one reason. So this for using black box property, this is one because if you use a logo, it'll be inside the function itself, and you don't need to worry about how what is global and what is outside the function. So this is one reason avoiding global variable global variables is encouraged. There's one reason why avoiding global variable is encouraged. What it does is it keeps function, as I said, it keeps function independent from the rest of the rest of your program. So this is encouraged because it keeps this independent of rest of your program. So this is what you mean by a global statement and how it's used, rules of it, etc., etc. So you can look at your notes. Get if you didn't understand anything, just look at the video again. So next comes exception handling. So exception handling is a really important topic in Python. I know all I'm saying this only, but okay, let's understand why is it important, or to be specific, why exception handling. So why do we need exception handling? So without handling, without handling errors, without handling errors, cause the program to crash. So if you don't handle errors, it will cause the program to crash. So in real world applications, you want to detect errors. So you want to detect errors. You want to handle them gracefully. You would like to handle them. Most of the time, we don't handle errors gracefully, but we would like them to handle gracefully. Then you want the program, you want the program to continue run. So these are the real world applications. So you want to detect errors, you want them to handle gracefully, and you want them to continue running. This is why you need exception handling. So how, in which cases do you use exception handling? Let's look at an example. Divide by zero error. So if you have a divide by zero error, let's look at a problem. So def spam divide by then we return 42 divide by. So this is a function. Then here you call print spam 0. Then we are sending 0 as the argument. What happens here is you get an error. You get an error saying 0 division error. So this is the error. When you divide by 0, so you get an error. So zero division error is division by error, 0 is not possible. So this happens whenever you try to divide by 0. Whenever you try to divide by 0, Python gives this error. So without handling this error, without handling the program stops to work at the error. So the program stops at this error. So whatever else commands you have below, it will not run. So this is why error handling is important. So how do you do this? So we have to have some weapons, right? So the weapons we are given is using two keywords, which are try and except. These are the two keywords used. So there are two blocks present. One is the try block. So the try block code that might cause error. This is where the code might cause error. You feel it might cause error. And except block, in except block, if the error is caused, code that runs if that specific error occurs. That specific error occurs. So if you look at an example, there are two ways. You can handle the error inside the function or outside the function. So example, handling inside the function. This is option 1. You handle inside the function. So def spam divide by, then you try. So you return 42 divide by. So this is where the error might occur. So if error occurs here, except. So the error which may occur is 0 division error. So if this error occurs, then we print error invalid argument. Then we print invalid argument. So this is the function. We handled the problem inside the function itself. So now when we print spam 0, error message will occur, returns. What is the error message? So output would be error invalid argument. So this would be your invalid argument. This is your error. So if error occurs, it immediately jumps to this except and prints this. So after this runs, the execution continues. If there are any other program statements below, after this statement is given, it continues with the rest of the program. So this is in handling inside the function. Whereas example, handling outside the function. Now you're handling outside the function. Now let's look at the problem. Def spam divide by return 42 divide by, then outside the function try, then you print spam 0 and many others. So if a error occurs in any of this function calling, then you go except 0 division error, then you print error invalid argument. So what happens here is once an error occurs, once an error occurs in the try block, once an error occurs in the try block, Python skips the rest, of the try block and goes directly to the except. So it skips everything and goes directly to the except. So here, after going directly except, execution doesn't return to try block. So execution doesn't return to try block. So this is the difference between outside and inside. Here execution doesn't return to the try block. It just gives this output and stops there. Whereas if you're doing inside the function, it continues with the other statements which are there. So key points or key conclusions you can look at this is, sorry, key points are try block where code, where use try block where code is at risk of causing an error is placed. Then except block handles the specific error. It handles the specific error. Then next, after handling, program executes normally. So it continues basically. Then next, you can handle inside or outside the function. So if error occurs, rest of try block is skipped. Is skipped. So this is how you use error handling to understand and to continue with the program instead of getting stuck there itself and not understanding where your program. Since you will have a message saying that okay, you have a message at this point, you'll know which part of your input is wrong. And after this is, so almost done with the function and we are going to the practical side of it. There's a short program which is guess the number. So we are going to look at a few problem statement or problem overview and we're going to break down step by step on how to solve this question. Okay, so we're going to write a short program using all the stuff we learned in this chapter and the previous chapters. So it is called guess the number. So let's look at the program overview of this. So basically, it is a simple number guessing game. So it's a simple number guessing game where where the computer picks a random, so it picks a random number between 1 to 20. So it picks a random number between 1 to 20. The player has, so the player has six chances. It has six chances to guess. So the program gives hints after each wrong guess. So it gives hints after each wrong guess. So this is your program overview. If you are able to code on your own with the knowledge, just pause it here and code away in your ideally or whichever platform you're trying to code it. I'm going to give the solution step by step breakdown on what the code is, what the code does. So first, okay, whenever you see something like random, so the first thing, okay, I'm just gonna write the program. I'm gonna type it, so maybe it's easier for you to understand. Okay, so let's type it up. Okay, okay, so we're gonna write code. Let's increase the font to maybe 22. Okay, well and good. So, okay, I'm gonna write some documentations and step by step. So let's look at the step by step breakdown, but step by step solution. So let's start with the first one. As soon as you see something like random, what is the first thing that comes to your head? You should first, if any program, you must import and set up. This is the first step in any program you do. The first part is you import and set up. So let's start with import. I really hate this. Oh shit. This is supposed to be code. Okay. Import. I import random. So because we need a random, then secret, secret. Okay. Just 1 second, guys. 1 second. Okay, guys. Let's continue. So we'll use a variable name, a secret number, which is equal to random. So we need randint, random integer. So we have given in the question that should be 1 to 0. So randint 1 to 20, not 0, I mean 1 to 20. So this is this. Okay. What is import random doing? It allows use of a random number function. So random generates from 1 to 20 any number, and this is stored in secret number. So the whatever is generated is stored in secret number. So this is the first part. And the next part is we should give certain instructions to the player. So we give some instructions to player. This is the second part. So you give instructions to the player. What can it do? So you have to explain what the user should do. So you print I am thinking of a number between, so let's expand this. Okay. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 20. So we are trying to make this as interactive as possible and fun. So this explains the game of the game to the player. You can write many other more things saying you can write this whole overview of the game also. But let's say I'm thinking of a number between 1 to 20. So next, so this says that the machine is thinking. The next part is what we should do. The next part is we should loop for up to 6 guesses. So we should let the user input 6 guesses. So for let's
assume guesses taken for guesses taken in range. So we should go from 1 to how many guesses? 6 guesses, right? So that's why 7. So it starts from 1 and goes till n minus 1, that is 6. So we see I'm indenting as we go. So here is the indented group. So range 1 to 7. Then we print take a guess. Take a guess. So what it does, it guess is equal to int input. So we take an input and we take the input only in int form. Even if you give in any other form, it should take only in int form. So this is done. So we have done taking the input from the user. Then the next part is we should compare the player's guess. So we should compare. So the next part is say we are moving out of the for loop. Are we moving out of the for loop? No, I don't think so. Mm, Should we move out of the for loop? No, because we are taking each guess at a time. So the next step is, I'll just write the next step. So the next step is compare players' guesses. So at each point, we should compare the players' guesses. So we start. If guess is less, so there are possibilities can be less than or greater than. So if it's less than secret number, then what should we print? We should print your guess is too low. So your guess is too low. If guess is greater than secret number, if it's greater than secret number, then print, you must print your guess is too high. So you must print your guess is too high. Else. So there are three possibilities. One is less than, greater than, else. If you have correctly guessed on your first try, then we use the break statement. So it breaks. So this is for the case where you guess correctly. So you guess correctly. So after the loop, so after the loop, so you get these three. At the end, you either get the correct guess or you don't get the correct guess in your six. So after loop, we have two possibilities. One possibility is that you have guessed correctly. So for example, if so, let's write this module as display results. So here, what you do, you have let's take look at the possibility that you guess correctly. So if guess is equal to secret number, so if guess is equal to secret number, what will happen? Print good job. Try making it like a game. So good job. You guessed my number. You guessed my number in plus. So whenever it breaks, it has guess taken has a value. That is the guess at which the user has guessed. So guesses taken. We should print this. So, but since you know, we can only concatenate with string. So you change this into string. Okay, then plus you have guessed it in these many guesses. So this prints either 1, 2, 3. Whenever you guessed it correctly, it prints that value. So this is one possibility. The second possibility is you have guessed wrong. So you have guessed wrong, then you print nope. The number I was thinking of was this is 1 plus now you print the string str
secret number. You print the secret number. So you have print, you have guessed. If this is the case where you have guessed correctly, this is the case you have guessed wrong. So what it does, it says you have I was thinking of any number between 1 to 20, whichever it has randomly taken at that point of time. So this is how you write a program step by step. So things you need to remember is modules. So you import random. Then random generator, which function do you need? You need randint. Then the loop. You should start with this. So look at this indentation. It's constant. So that means it's under this only. So it's indented correctly. Then conditional loop control. Then string concatenation. It should be in string only. These are the key takeaways from this program. So what I would like you to do is open whichever compiler you're using on your laptop. It can be VS Code, anything, PyCharm, etc. etc. Try running this program. You might get some errors. Try debugging it. Read line by line. Read line by line and try debugging it. If you have any problems still, make sure you write it in the comments so that I can maybe do another video on how to execute this also if you guys want it, because it's a simple program. I'm not executing, I'm just giving you the solution. So this is a short program. So next, let's look at few questions from this chapter. So, okay, let's start off with question number one. Wait, yeah, question number one. What is question number one? Why? I think this has gone too much thickness. Let's reduce the thickness. Okay, question number one. Why? So, why are functions advantageous to have in your program? So, why is it advantageous to have in your program? So the answer for this is, see, if you know the answer, you can pause and write on your own and recheck. But answer for this is, first one, avoids code duplication. It avoids code duplication. And next, make code shorter, easier to read, test, and maintain. Then next, easier to fix bugs. It's easier to fix bugs. Then next, improve program structure. It improves program structure. So this is it. So next, question number two. Okay, let me try one thing. If I can speed up the questioning, if I can copy paste the question. Okay, second question. I think if I am able to increase the size to 20. Yeah, this works, right? Okay. When does the code in a function execute? When the function is defined, or is it when that function is defined or when the function is called? So when does the function execute? When it is called. So answer is when the function is called. This is your answer. So when the function is called, it executes. Then, okay, next. Third question. Third question. What statement creates a what statement creates a function? So what statement creates a function? So The solution is the def statement. The def statement. So example, def my function pass. So we use def function to create a statement. Next, question number 4. What is difference between a function and a function call? So function means named block, named block of code that performs a task. Next, what is function call? Executes the function code. How it contains this function name plus parenthesis. That's how you function call it. Then next, question number 5. How many how many global scopes how many global scopes are there in a Python program? Then how many local scopes are there? So solution, there is one global scope. There's one global there's one global scope per program, and there is one local scope per function call. Okay. Then next, sixth question. What happens to variables in a local scope when the function call returns? So when the function call returns, what happens to the variable in local scope? So solution, they are destroyed and forgotten. No, so that means they no longer exist. Okay. Then next one, seventh question. So seventh question, what is a return value? What is a return value? Can can a return value be part of an expression? So what is a return value, and can a return value be part of an expression? So let's look at the solution. So first answer is, what is return value? So the value the value of function call evaluates to. So a function call evaluates to is called return value. For second answer question, yes, it can be used as part of an expression. can be used as part of an expression. So let's look at an example. Example, len hello plus 2. So here return value from len is used in expression. So here return value is 5. So it'll be 5 plus 2, which is 7. So next, question number 8. If a function doesn't doesn't have a return statement, function doesn't have a return statement, what is the return value of a call to that function? So what is the return value for the call to that function? So the answer is none. We have discussed in detail about this. So answer is none. Next, ninth question. How can you force how can you force a variable in a function to refer to the global variable? So answer is use the global statement use the global statement inside the function. So you can use the global statement inside the function. So for example, you can say global var name or variable name to use inside the function. Next, 10th one. What is the data type of none? So what is the data type of none? It is none type. It is none type. Then next, 11th question. What does the statement import area, okay, import, that's not area, import a real or really our pet's name Derek do? So what it does is imports that module name above, imports that module name above, but given that, it must exist in Python path. Unless and until it's not there in the Python part, it won't import that module. Next, 12th question. If you had a function named bacon, if you had a function named bacon, so if you had a function named bacon in a module named spam, how would you call it? Call it after importing spam. So how would you call it? So we just say spam dot bacon. That's all. Next is how can you prevent a program from crashing when it gets an error. So, how do you do this? By exception handling. But what do you use in exception handling? You use try and except blocks to handle exception to handle exceptions. Next, 14th one, what goes in the try clause? The next question, what goes in the except clause? So what goes here, what goes there is the question. So solution, try contains code that might cause an error. So try contains a code that might cause an error, whereas except code that, okay, sorry, code to run if that specific error occurs. So let's look at an example. So when you say try x is equal to 1 by 0, then you accept it with that error. That error would be 0 division error. Then when this error occurs, it prints you can't divide by 0. You can't divide by 0. So these are the questions or practice questions. Then next and the final topic would be practice projects. So there's going to be two practice projects. One is the Collatz sequence. You're gonna get to know soon what this means. And the second one is input validation, for the Collatz program. Input validation for the Collatz program. So these are the two projects we're going to learn about. So let's dive right into practice project one, which is the Collatz sequence. So it's the Collatz sequence. Okay. So let's understand what's our task first. What's our task? So our task is to write a function, that is Collatz with a parameter number that if number is even, print, if it's even, it prints and returns number divided by 2. Whereas if the same thing, so if the same thing the number is if the number is odd, you should print and return number plus 1. So we must write a program that prompts the user to enter a positive integer. So it prompts the user to enter a positive integer and calls Collatz on that number until the function returns 1. So until the function returns 1, it should call this function and prints each result in sequence. It prints each result in the sequence. So this is your problem statement. So basically first, if it's even, it should divide, and if it's odd, it should add 1. And until you get the answer as 1, you should keep on doing this. So let's look at the solution. Let's look at the solution. Again, I'm gonna start writing the code and try documenting as much as possible so that you can understand. So first, we need to create the Collatz function with number as its parameter. So we create Collatz with number as its parameter. So if what is the first condition? If number is divisible by 2, I mean if its remainder gives 0, then we the result should be equal to number divided by 2. Then you print result. Then you return result. But else, if it's either if it's not even, it is odd. Then you do result. Oh, sorry, I misjudged the question. The question is, it must do 3 into number plus 1. So 3 into number plus 1. So result should be equal to 3 into, so 3 into number plus 1. And then you print result. Then you return result. So this is your function, as simple as that. But next, what you need to do is get input from user and start the sequence. You get input from the user and start the sequence. So n will be equal to int input enter number. So you enter the number from the user. Then while n not equal to 1. So here, while you're giving input, you can even write a sentence inside this so that it first prints this, and the next line you can input yourself. Instead of writing a print statement above, this is the same as you can write this as this also. Print whatever is there here, you can copy paste it here and close this. So this would be the same as what you saw previously. So instead of doing this, what I do is I just take this, put it inside the input itself. So there's one less line of code. So while n is not equal to 1, what it must do? It should call the function. Collatz n. So this keeps on looping until you get n as 1. So sample, if I have to look at it, look at the output. Let's analyze one of the outputs. So first you get enter number. So this is the output. You get enter number. So you might enter 3. So this is odd. So it goes here. It will compute 3 into 3 plus 1. So 9 plus 1, 10. So you will get it as 10. This is even. So it should divide. So you will get 5. This is odd again. This will go 3 into 5 plus 1. 15, 16 you will get. This is again even. So you get divided by 2, 8. This is again even divided by 2. This is again even divided by 2. This is again even divided by 1. So you get 1. So you returned 1. So the loop closes here. So this is how this project works. So Collatz sequence. So this is your Collatz sequence. Get it? Okay. So this is practice program 1. But whereas let's look at so not program practice project. So next is practice project 2. This is something called as input validation. Input validation. So here what's the task is, you must modify the previous program. You must modify the previous program so it doesn't crash if the user enters a non-integer input. So it shouldn't crash if the user enters a non-integer input. And how you should do is, you must use try except block to keep asking until the user enters a valid integer. So basically what it's saying is we should modify this such that if the first number is not an integer and gives something else, it should not throw an error and it should continue until he gives the correct answer. So this large part of the logic will be same. There's nothing to change here. So this part of the logic will change. But after this, you must start with a while loop. While true. So while true, try, we start with try block. N is equal to int. N is equal to int. Input, and input, enter number. So input, enter number. This is the same as the previous. You can give single quote or double quote, your wish. Then what you do is you break. After inputting, you break. But in the input, if you get a value error, meaning you wanted integer but they gave something else, you get a value error, then you print you must enter an integer. So you print this. Then so unless and until this breaks, this keeps on looping as an infinite loop. So then you go out and you say while n is not equal to 1, then n will be equal to Collatz n. So you keep on looping this until you get the 1 as an output. So if you look at the output example, the first would be enter a number. So for example, instead of putting a valid number, I say hey. I type hey. Then it will throw an error. What will throw? You must enter an integer. So again, instead of giving, I say hi. Again, it loops. You must. So again, it says you must enter a integer. you must enter an integer. Sorry. After this, it will again say enter number. So it's looping back again. So it again says enter number. So you must enter integer. Again it says enter number. So this time you sense it and enter the correct number, enter 3. Then it continues as usual how it continued here. So it continues after 3 you get all the sequence and you can print your sequence. This is how error handling works. So these are the two practice programs for you to understand. Try executing on your own and try understanding how and where we're using try. And if you have any doubts, please post in the comments so that I can help you better understand. I can create a separate video with all your doubts. And if you have any suggestions, please do let me know in the comments. So thank you guys. See you in the next chapter.